entire county. This event seems to grow every year. I tend to believe it's because of the new governor. This is the reasons why we're reaching capacity and overcapacity. She draws quite a crowd wherever she goes throughout the entire state. Fortunately, her and I had an opportunity, she'll speak a little bit about it, to drive around some of the roads here in Macomb County this past Friday. And as bumpy as it was, we did have a decent conversation about it. But I just want to introduce her by way of dealing with this particular issue, if I may. And it's very basic and very simple, but for some reason, people are very confused by the challenges that we're facing here. It is without question the number one issue in Southeast Michigan, in particular here in Macomb County, and it's our roads. At your table while you were eating, I provided a little placard with some very basic information on it. First off, it has a beautiful picture of me standing next to a pothole. I just want to let you know that approximately 30 years ago, there was a different type of a picture with a countywide elected official and a pothole. It happened to be Brooks Patterson standing in the pothole when he was challenging then Governor Engler to fix the roads and do something with it. Interesting enough, it caused some friction within his own party, his challenge, because he realized that they needed to do something about those roads. And back then, the governor decided he wanted to take on a route of bonding the road projects because of the lack of support he was getting from the legislature to do something about it. Well, it's interesting. Decades later, we're still in the same predicament. And if you look at the back side, you see a pie chart that pertains to Macomb County. This is your educational moment. I didn't think you're going to have to actually eat and learn something here today. If you look at the pie chart, you'll see that the roads in Macomb County, 7% of them are the responsibility of the state of Michigan through MDOT. Well, who do you think is in charge of fixing those roads? Let me help you. It's not the legislature. It's the governor of the state of Michigan. Now, kind of take a look over the area where you see the big green one. That's Macomb County roads. Those are the ones that I take care of on behalf of different cities and villages throughout the county. There's some of my responsibility, but every township. That's a huge responsibility. That's my responsibility, not the Board of Commissioners. I say that for this reason. The governor made a commitment that she was going to fix the damn roads, in her words. She wanted to partner with the legislature to come up with funding to solve this problem. A problem that's been in the making for decades. We cannot continue to wait for a legislative response to this because there is none. It hasn't happened. And I'm one of those people, as optimistic as I am, don't believe there truly is going to be one. So the governor said, I'm going to spend 38% of that bond money in an area where 37% of the population is to fix the areas that have the biggest problem. In Macomb County, that 7% of roads that need to be fixed here in Macomb County from the State Department through their MDOT are going to be fixed because she came up with a solution outside of the legislative solution. Now, granted, some of them are upset. Yes, please applaud, because when you see these roads get down or fixed here, you're going to be amazed at what happens. We're talking about Hall Road finally getting completed from start to finish. We're talking about I-94 and approximately 20 bridges. We're talking about branches. We're talking about Van Dyke and bypass. Those are major thoroughways here in Macomb County that she's fast forwarding some of those projects to get fixed here in Macomb County and not waiting for the legislature to get on board. I find it interesting that any legislature would be complaining about this, saying this is outside of the responsibility. We still need to talk about it. Well, there's no more room for talking. It's time for solutions. It's time to fix the roads. And unfortunately for the governor, she can't force a legislative solution to help local cities and villages or county road departments the proper funding to fix their roads. It's still going to take the legislature. So people are saying, but this isn't going to help us with our local solution. That's right. That's not the governor's responsibility to fix those roads. That's mine. That's the mayor's. That's the village president's. That's our responsibility to fix those roads. And we need the legislature to get on board to fix this. Step away from partisan divide. Step away from worrying about whether you're going to get elected or re-elected or not. What you need to do is come up with a funding to help us solve this problem. Because as I've said before, and it's on this placard, there isn't one road or one bridge we can't fix in this entire state if we have the proper funding. And with that being said, the governor recognized that. She said, I may not be able to get it from this legislature right now, but I'm going to find that money through a bonding process. Maybe it is not the ultimate solution, but it's definitely a solution that's going to get me by right now. And Governor, I want to thank you for taking a leadership role in doing what you promised to do, and that's fix the roads, particularly here in Macomb County, because I know it's finally going to get done. So thank you, and congratulations for taking a leadership role that a governor is supposed to take in doing something that's most important to us here in Macomb County, and that's fixing the damn roads. Ladies and gentlemen, the governor of the great state of Michigan, Governor Luncheon.
Thank you. That's great. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a great deal. Thank you so much. And I am so pleased to be here with all of you. And I want to compliment the organizers of this event by calling it the Governor's Luncheon. You guarantee that the governor shows up every single year. That's brilliant. I'm going to a governor's breakfast in Cadillac in 2 months because I can't not go, right? But I am thrilled to be here with all of you. And I think it was Michael who's not wearing a tie. This governor doesn't wear ties either, so we're good. All right, so first I want to acknowledge the boards of both the Macomb and Sterling Heights chambers. Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the hard work that you put in to keep all of the members of your organizations up to speed on what is happening. Maria Silamin, they spelled it phonetically. Silamianos. Thank you, all right. Craig Sherman and all of the event sponsors, Kelly Lavardi from the Macomb Chamber, Stacy Zierico from the Sterling Heights Chamber. Thank you all, and to all of the elected officials, lots of you are here at this table, thank you, and to the county exec, thank you for the great introduction and your support on the Fixing the Damn Roads. You know, I've put an agenda together on the table that will help fix our roads, keep Michiganders safe and healthy, improve education and skills training, and clean up our drinking water, and also combating climate change. These are real, concrete solutions that will make a difference in people's lives right now. When we make these investments, we help our economy grow and ensure that businesses across Michigan can connect with the talent that they need to thrive. And so, everything we do must be reflected by these priorities, whether it's the State of the State that I gave, or it is the State of the Union response that I gave, or it is the budget presentation that I made. Each of these are opportunities for us to say what matters to Michiganders and how we go about solving the problems that we are confronting as a state. I was trying to figure out where I shoot this. All right, how do we flip the screen? Mel, you want to just do it manually? Okay. So to understand what I propose in 2020 as we move forward, I think it's important that we understand the state budget. First, I think it's important that everyone here understand a little bit about what we are confronting as a state. The general fund portion of the state budget is about $11 billion. As you can see on this chart that is on the screen, it's about the same size it was 20 years ago. And I point this out to show you that while the cost of everything else has increased over that same 20 years, our ability to pay for it has not increased by any meaningful stretch. And so that's what puts so much pressure on the decisions that we're making as a state. And that's precisely why I built the budget last year that I did, because I recognize we have a lot of fundamentals that we got to get right in Michigan. Had that budget simply grown by the cost of inflation, by the rate of inflation, we would have about $5.5 billion more to work with. That's half of what we have. That would be 100% of what we have. That is the difference between outcomes for kids that aren't competitive with the rest of the country. That is the difference between an infrastructure crisis that means bridges are falling apart and coming through people's windshields. That is the difference between a college degree that is out of reach for most people in our state and a concentration of talent. That is one of the pressures that we are confronting as a state. As the general fund struggles, I think it's important that you see these pressures as well. Number one, Right before I came into office on the last day of the last administration and legislature, they spent $1.3 billion on the way out. Think about that in perspective of a budget that is $11 billion, that 1.3 was spent literally on the last day. Combine that with the fact that we have a lot of lawsuits against the state, that the bill is going to come due under my watch, then we have to prepare for that to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars perhaps. And finally, that general fund dollar, that $11 billion that I talked about, $2 billion is already being diverted for other purposes like the roads, which is why I led with the budget that I did last year to fix that problem. Despite all of the pressures that I just highlighted, I drafted a budget that focuses on the priorities that we as a state really need to tackle. First and foremost, in my State of the State address, I announced the Rebuilding Michigan plan. This is a bonding plan so that we can start moving some dirt this year and start fixing the roads. I have said to the legislature, I invite anyone to the table who wants to have a serious conversation about a long-term funding fix. But I cannot wait for them to get serious any longer. I have got to get moving because the way that our roads are deteriorating, they're getting more and more dangerous and more expensive if we don't start to bend the curve now. And so I move forward with this bonding plan. Now I know that there's been, some people are curious about how this works, but I want you to understand a little bit about the wisdom of doing this right now. When we lock in low rates today and we start moving dirt, it means we make people safer and we show that Michigan's serious about the mobility sector of the future. And it makes this a place where people want to invest. This had to get passed by the State Transportation Commission, 5 out of 6 of whom were appointed by my predecessor, Governor Snyder. They voted unanimously to do this because this is the right thing to do right now. And it's a way that we can get moving and not wait for a legislative long-term fix, although that still must come, as the county exec just highlighted. In the budget is where we tackle a lot of the other issues. So, once we do Rebuilding Michigan, this #1 priority is, of course, the safety of our citizens. #2, it helps save money in the long term. The average motorist in Michigan is spending over $600 a year to fix your cars, while our roads keep getting worse. So by locking in low rates now, we can borrow and make sure that we start to change the trajectory, but also ensure that your bills that you're paying to fix your cars don't continue to climb and perhaps go down, especially if you live in Southeast Michigan. It gives us the ability to start working right now. No more waiting, no more talking, action. And it does not require an increase at the pump. So these are the reasons that this made sense in this moment. I wanted to highlight, oh, I'm going the wrong way. There we go. I wanted to highlight a few, just a picture of the map of what it's going to mean for Macomb County. I know that the county exec mentioned it, but it's $126 million rebuilding vital Macomb County corridors, like I-94 from 8 Mile to 11 Mile, and M59 from Romeo Plank Road to I-94. The addition of the bond funds will also free up other money to accelerate some other long-needed projects, including $55 million for major rehab of M53 between 18 Mile and 27 Mile, and $28 million for rehabilitation of I-94 from 23 Mile to County Line. That is going to happen here in Macomb County, and that is a good thing for everyone who lives this. So we'll move into the budget now, because obviously roads is what I ran on, and we're going to get to work on them this year. The budget is where we identify and prioritize other pieces of these fundamentals that are so important to people all across Michigan. Rebuilding state roads is just a part of the agenda that we've set. I've introduced a budget that is dedicated to improving education and skills training, protecting and expanding health care for families, and cleaning up drinking water and fighting climate change. These are the dinner table issues I've stayed focused on as governor, and they are what I will stay tethered to so long as I am governor. And coupled with the Rebuilding Michigan plan, This is the agenda that makes Michigan a place where everyone truly has an opportunity to get ahead. Whether you are a business owner or an employee or a stay-at-home mom who's just trying to make sure your kids get to school safely, everyone benefits when we hit these fundamentals and get them right. So, let's get into the budget a little more. Let's see. I reordered this on the way here, so forgive me if I'm still double checking where we are at. So, timeline. Here is the budget timeline that I wanted to talk about. As we think about what happened last year in the budget, it was not an experience I think any one of us is keen on reliving. Am I right, Bill? No one wants to go through that again. And so, as a part of the final budget negotiation, I signed a bill into law that requires the budget gets done on July 1st. That is a good thing for our state because our school districts and municipal budgets begin, the fiscal year starts then, and so for us to be able to tell locals what they're working with is really important. Now on the education front, I'm really pleased that we had the ability to make some important investments so we can improve outcomes for the children of Michigan. I prioritize funding for public schools, which my budget provides the largest funding increase for classroom operation in 20 years and ensures our students and educators have the resources they need to be successful. It includes $415 million to continue building on the weighted foundation formula, which includes a base per pupil amount plus additional funding for students who need it the most. Last year together, we took steps that moved us toward a weighted foundation formula. This is bolstered by every study that says kids in higher poverty areas need additional supports to be successful. Kids with special education needs, CTE programs. These are the ways that we level the playing field and ensure everyone has a path to a skill. In addition, under my budget, teachers will receive $250 each to help reimburse the costs of out-of-pocket expenses that they bring for classroom supplies. It will expand preschool to thousands of children across our state, and while we tripled the number of literacy coaches last year, this budget expands by putting more resources into implementing best practices around literacy throughout our education systems. 2, let's talk about jobs and the economy. My agenda builds on the strides we took last year to create and grow jobs in Michigan. Last year, I announced the Michigan Mobility Challenge, which will be a part of this year's auto show. It's a big change for us to move the auto show from January to the summer, but it also is a great opportunity. This is a chance for us to showcase some of the tremendous innovation and talent in our state, not to mention the beauty of Michigan in the summer. This mobility challenge is going to be a phenomenal way for us to highlight some of the cool cutting-edge things that are happening in Michigan around mobility. And since I took office, we've announced more than 11,000 jobs in the mobility sector. That's 5 times more than the previous year and the most ever announced in the history of the Michigan Economic Development Corporation. These are good, high-paying jobs. My budget also includes $35 million for the bipartisan Michigan Reconnect program, which is providing a tuition-free pathway for adults. Right now in Michigan, only 45% of our adults have a post-secondary degree or certificate. We need to get to 60%, and we need to get to 60% fast by 2030. Right now, over 100,000 jobs are unfilled because of a skills gap. So the Michigan Reconnect, which is modeled after the Tennessee Reconnect, is focused on that adult population who needs to upskill because their job has evolved or because they want to get into a better paying job. This is about meeting the needs of our employers and attracting and keeping great talent here within our borders. And this budget also does another really important thing. As I've traveled the state, I know the pressures that families have and employers have when it comes to child care. So my budget includes funding to expand access to child care services for thousands of Michigan kids. A stronger workforce depends on resources like quality, affordable child care. and this is something that we're going to get done during my time as governor, and we are moving forward. Healthcare. I spoke about my priorities when it comes to healthcare in my State of the State address, and this budget helps us achieve my goals. First, we are making sure that more Michigan seniors have the ability to age with dignity in their homes. We're reining in the cost of prescription drugs by creating a preferred drug list to save taxpayers and patients money. The budget also ensures 12 weeks of paid parental leave for state workers if they are the parent of a newborn baby or a newly adopted child. This is modeled after the Trump administration for federal employees, and we know what a great thing it has been, and it's something that we can do here in Michigan. And something that I'm really very excited about is in this budget I have funded the Healthy Moms, Healthy Babies program, which will help ensure that every Michigander who chooses to have a baby has the resources they need to have a healthy pregnancy, a healthy delivery, and postpartum care. Right now, Black women are 3 to die of pregnancy-related causes. Just let that sink in for a second. It's 3 times more dangerous for a Black woman to have a baby than it is for a white woman. And when that is the case, we all pay for that. It's why I've made maternal mortality a priority, combating maternal mortality a priority for all of our state. I want us to understand and acknowledge how implicit bias contributes. We need to work fast to change the culture in care delivery for women of color, and we need to train physicians and nurses from the beginning to recognize, and so we can address this. And before I conclude, I want to talk a little bit about the environment. My budget prioritizes cleaning up drinking water and combating the harmful effects of climate change so we can build a stronger, more sustainable future for our kids and generations to come. This budget includes $40 million for school infrastructure grants to districts so that we can ensure that our students have a safe and healthy learning environment. 2, we have $40 million for climate resilient infrastructure projects for local communities so that they can combat issues that are making life more difficult by virtue of climate change and high water levels. And I included $2.5 million for the construction of a Milliken Visitor Center in honor of Governor Bill Milliken, our state's longest serving governor, who was the greatest steward of the Great Lakes before anyone knew how critical that was going to be. I think it's important that we honor his legacy and leadership. So in conclusion, I ran on fixing the dam roads, improving education, closing the skills gap, protecting and expanding healthcare, and cleaning up our drinking water. This agenda that I put forward helps us achieve all of those goals. There is still certainly more work to do to ensure that we are top 10 in all of these measurements, but we are on the way, and it is going to take all of us to get it done. Republican, Democrat, independent, unengaged. It is now time for all of us to be a part of the solution, because it's not just us, but it's generations of Michiganders who are counting on us to get it done. I welcome your partnership. I'm grateful for your engagement, and I'm really pleased to be here with all of you. So much so, I may one day make Macomb my home too. Thank you. Does this one? I've got one on my coat that doesn't seem to work either.
You gave it the wrong guy. Yeah.
You want to share? Here, you want to just share so we can get moving? Thank you. Yeah. What is this one?
Thank you. This next is kind of a statement. I think it's not much to respond to. Way too many people have been through this. They have a gap in owning and or leasing a vehicle. They lose their current vehicle to an accident. If these people, including myself, in the past are supposed to keep paying premiums on a vehicle they no longer own and or drive, and if they do not continue to pay premiums, they are penalized, multiplied by 2 if not 3 times. What gives here? We need a major change in the state law. We need to get real busy on this one. I'm in contact with thousands of people per year, and more than 30% say they've been in a situation currently or in the past.
Well, I feel like there's more information to that particular story that I would need in order to have a more thoughtful answer. But I will say, in the general area of no-fault auto insurance, we made some strides last year. It was bipartisan effort, and the bill goes into full effect this summer. And so I anticipate that we will see a decrease in premiums that people are paying. We've been working with the Department of Insurance and Financial Services to ensure that as you go to make your choices, they are informed choices. So that you know if you choose a lower form of coverage, while it will cost less on the front end, that you will receive less on the back end. So that people are really thoughtful, because we've had this system that has been in effect for decades. And this is an incredible change that we are on the precipice of. And so to ensure that the consumer is educated about what the costs and benefits are of making those choices, it's really important that you get educated on it. And I know I'm talking to a room full of really thoughtful, educated consumers, but I hope that everyone takes pains to make sure that you understand the scope of what your choice means when you're making it. Because as we get closer to this summer, those forms are coming in the mail, and everyone needs to make sure that they're thoughtful.
So what is your plan to get more money to local units of government for infrastructure?
Well, remember that 45-cent gas tax from last year? That was my attempt to fix the problem that we have in Michigan. We have a $2.5 billion infrastructure crisis in Michigan. It's not happened overnight. This is many governors in the making, many legislatures in the making. But at this juncture, we are underfunding our infrastructure system to the tune of $2.5 billion. Now, I was not excited about introducing the gas tax, trust me. But I told people I was going to fix the problem, and that is the best, honest way of actually fixing the problem. I'm tired of politicians who say, we don't have to pay, or it's not as bad as it is. This is what it is. These are the facts. The facts are, a woman was driving down 127 the other day, and a chunk of a bridge came through her windshield and hit her in the head. This is what's happening. This is the state that put the world on wheels. I've announced 11,000 jobs in advanced mobility this year, making cars of the future, and we've got roads that are disintegrating underneath them. And that's why, as I introduced the budget last year, as much as it was difficult to do it, it was the right thing to do. The legislature, on the other hand, didn't embrace it. I knew that that was probably unlikely, but I said I was going to do it, and I did it. But not only was it not embraced, it was not countered with any serious alternative. So that's why I'm moving forward with the bonding plan, because I can't wait for the legislative leadership to get serious. We have to start moving dirt and fixing roads. And so moving forward with the bonding plan is a fiscally responsible thing to do. But let's all be very clear, it's financing, not funding. And that's precisely why as the legislature asks, how are we going to fix local roads? That's their job. They need to put a solution on the table. And I'm looking at my friends St. Shannon and Bertel and Sowerby and Shurkin, and I know that they're all ready to move forward on a solution. But until the leadership in the legislature says, this is a problem and here's an alternative, We can't just wait around and watch it get worse. And so I'm moving forward. Please encourage the legislative leadership to put an alternative on the table so that we can do what Mark said is so critical, so that other 93% of roads in Macomb County, we can start getting those fixed too.
Seeing that we struggle with brain drain and our working generation is becoming more dependent and choosing a place to live based on quality of life issues and access to recreation and nature, what would you propose to make communities like Macomb County more attractive for our own sustainability?
Well, I love the spirit of the question, but I would always say the first thing that any thoughtful governor should do is ask the people of the community what they want to make it better. I don't think Lansing can tell every 83 counties what they should be doing to make it themselves more attractive to the younger generation. But I will acknowledge this. Michigan offers things that no other state can offer. Whether it is this incredible university system that we have, or it is this 21% of the world's fresh water. People come from out of state and they look out at Lake Huron or Lake Michigan and they think it's like an ocean because they never saw a lake that you couldn't see the other side of. Michigan has so much to offer. As I was in Silicon Valley a couple of months ago, we were pitching businesses and they loved the fact that we got a high quality of life and a low cost of living. So as I think about my daughter who is going to U of M as a freshman this fall, and my other one who's entering her senior year in high school. This is what centers everything that I do, because I want to make sure that they and your kids and grandkids stay in Michigan, that we draw others into our state. That is what drives everything, and those fundamentals matter. I spoke with a friend of mine who's moving out to Oregon. He moved out to Oregon. He didn't want to leave Michigan. He's lived here his whole life just like I have, and I frankly cannot imagine living anywhere other than this state. But both his kids live in Oregon. One, because, well, she's got children and her kids are in the public schools, and ours don't compete at the same level the Oregon public schools, and so she didn't want to move back to Michigan. His son also lives in Portland, Oregon. He is gay, and says he doesn't want to come back to Michigan because he doesn't have full civil rights protections under our Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. These fundamentals are what we've got to get right in order to make Michigan a place where our young people stay and where people who want to raise families will make it their home and make this the place where they retire as well.
Can you speak more to why we need to do more in the area of healthcare in the state?
I think this is a huge question, and obviously it's such a huge question that's dominating all of the debate on the national level and this conversation about, you know, the presidency. But what I can recognize is that I had a great opportunity to work across the aisle with Governor Snyder to ensure that we expanded Medicaid in Michigan. 680,000 people get health care because of it, and I've met a number of people as I've traveled our state who've seen a doctor for the first time because they finally got health care. That said, I know that it hasn't fixed every issue that we have as a state in terms of meeting the healthcare needs of small business or individuals. We have more work to do. But as we look to see what has happened kind of locally, right now I am in the midst of trying to get the legislature to voluntarily suspend the work requirements, to take away some of that Medicaid expansion, because they've been knocked down in court. And it's very likely that ours will get knocked down as well. The legislature, the leadership has said, we want you to move forward. There's millions of dollars at stake here if we move forward and then we find out that it's not applicable. And so this is one little example of the push and pull that happens around healthcare. What I do know is that the cost of prescription drugs is hurting a lot of people in our state. That decisions are being made between cutting diabetic medicine in half or eating or making a rent payment. This is a reality for a lot of people in Michigan, and that's why the bipartisan task force that I announced on prescription drugs is really important. And it's bipartisan because I recognize I need the legislature to be a part of solving this problem, or at least addressing what we can address as a state until the federal government gets their act together. So there are a number of issues that come to play in the healthcare space. I addressed one of many, but I addressed one pretty thoroughly here today. We've got to ensure that there's greater access and equitable outcomes for people as they confront the healthcare system in Michigan. We got a lot of work to do, but we're making strides and we're going to continue.